An absolute, suffocating silence gripped the press room that mysterious evening. This was no ordinary lull on a slow media day. This tension felt thick and suffocating. You could literally hear dozens of journalists holding their breath. Time seemed to freeze completely while lenses aimed at the stage and recorders reached out like desperate hands. Facing that massive crowd stood one individual at the microphone. Tomaso Cion was his name. The missing lady's own son-in-law. The entire town spent weeks wondering about Nancy Guthrie's fate. She was an 84-year-old matriarch of a loving family, a devoted churchgoer and passionate home chef. She frequently rang her kids simply to chat and check in. Women like her do not just vanish into thin air, yet she was entirely gone. As rescue crews scoured local pastures under flashlight beams, Tomaso remained completely mute, masked by attorneys. He kept his mouth shut. His eerie refusal to speak only fueled public anxiety. Therefore, stepping up to that mic instantly shifted the atmosphere. Bodies inched closer as camera shutters fired in a frenzy. Journalists ceased their murmurs. Absolutely desperate for answers. What secrets was he hiding? And what would he reveal? He coughed softly, scanning the sea of eager eyes glued to him. Then he dropped a massive bombshell by admitting his presence that evening. Chaos erupted instantly, shattering the entire narrative. Investigators spent the last month secretly piecing together the puzzle. They held key clues and harbored deep suspicions. Detectives felt increasingly certain of foul play. Yet, Tomaso offered zero help or statements, shielding himself entirely with corporate attorneys. Yet here he stood before a global audience, openly confessing to visiting Nancy's home right when she went missing. The press corps immediately exploded into a chaotic chorus of demanding shouts. Raising his palm, he simply continued his speech. His tone lacked any real grief or shock, sounding bizarrely rehearsed and perfectly steady instead. He confessed that a massive, heated dispute took place. Tensions reportedly boiled over regarding her estate plans. She wanted to alter her legal will and finances, effectively stripping Tomaso of his wealth and influence. Shortly after, another brief sentence slipped from his lips, completely freezing everyone's blood. He claimed somebody else accompanied her. The frantic yelling ceased immediately, replaced by a glaring new mystery. Who exactly kept the elderly woman company during those final hours? More importantly, why did this crucial detail stay buried so long? An investigator near the exit scribbled a furious note, emphasizing it heavily. This officially escalated way past a simple wandering senior case. A much darker plot was unfolding right now. However, unpacking the horrors of that evening requires a journey into the past. We must rewind past this shocking media circus and the massive rescue operations. Long before folks realized foul play was involved, we must return to day one. Knowing the victim's true character is essential. Grasping the sheer tragedy of her loss demands recognizing the immense impact she had on her beloved family. Prior to discussing crime scenes, task forces, dusty highways, or hidden motives, we must take a hard pause. Let us focus on the matriarch herself, as she was never just clickbait fodder or a simple police file. She amounted to far more than a faded flyer tacked to a street lamp on a freezing dawn. This was a vibrant human being. Her family stresses that, despite being 84, her boundless energy defied her senior status entirely. Idling away her golden years simply was not in her nature. Waking earlier than folks decades younger, she maintained strict daily habits, tending to both her faith and her flowers. Daily check-ins with her offspring were practically sacred obligations. As a doting matriarch, she kept track of every single family milestone. You could always count on a physical greeting card arriving, complete with genuine, heartfelt penmanship. Hot meals always awaited visitors at her threshold. To her, offering a warm plate was the ultimate expression of affection. Savannah, her daughter, called her the anchor of their bloodline, drawing every relative back to their roots. Despite a remarkably soft-spoken demeanor, she possessed a quiet authority that commanded utter respect from everyone present in the room. Decades of relentless labor allowed her to construct a massive legacy, forging deep familial bonds and a secure household. Heading into her twilight years, she meticulously arranged the future distribution of her hard-earned empire. Armed with an attorney and ironclad wills, she legally cemented the exact distribution of her considerable assets. Sloppiness held no place in her financial affairs. She absolutely loathed leaving any business matters unresolved or ambiguous. Ironically, her meticulous nature would eventually serve as a massive clue in this tragedy. However, we must table that for a moment. Imagine her enjoying a typical morning. She is likely relaxing by the dining window, sipping a hot brew. Her residence feels peaceful rather than isolated. Golden rays warm the room beautifully as she mentally prepares for a busy afternoon. A whirlwind of constant energy, this tiny lady radiated an immense, commanding presence straight from her favorite armchair. She absolutely owned her space. She vanished into thin air on the evening of February 1st, 2026. Her disappearance forms the chilling core of our tale. Enter Tomaso Cion, a central figure in this terrifying mystery. What was his actual deal? He officially joined the matriarch's bloodline through marriage. By wedding one of the victim's daughters, he legally cemented his relative status, though perhaps merely in name alone. Acquaintances painted him as an intensely dominant personality, a guy who boldly flaunted his absolute authority over the entire domestic sphere. He avoided violent physical outbursts or dramatic tantrums in favor of calculated, silent manipulation. He obsessively monitored the precise dynamic of every situation. Hoarding secrets and dictating everyone's privileges gave him a supreme sense of power. Initially, this rigid micromanagement caused absolutely zero obvious friction. Bloodlines inherently breed drama. Relatives naturally adopt distinct, deeply expected personas. A few command, others simply obey, usually without a second thought. However, their established domestic hierarchy slowly began to fracture. The matriarch initiated secret legal consultations. She relentlessly probed her attorney regarding inheritance matters, asset management, hierarchies, and the potential fallout of amending her will. Ultimately, she boldly resolved to completely alter her lasting legacy. The precise nature of those adjustments remains a highly pivotal focus for our active homicide detectives. Yet, after dissecting extensive financial paperwork, phone logs, and intimate interviews, law enforcement arrived at one very specific, terrifying conclusion. Our victim was systematically severing her son-in-law's financial grip. She severely restricted his authority, revoked key privileges, and transferred wealth management to entirely new trustees. To a profoundly controlling patriarch, this restrictive development spelled absolute, infuriating disaster. This marks our terrifying descent. The shadows crept in gradually, mimicking the suffocating, oppressive humidity that endlessly builds right before a devastating hurricane strikes. Anyone truly observant could have easily sensed the impending doom. The 84-year-old widow lived a solitary existence, placing blind faith in her inner circle. She never suspected the brewing tempest was aimed directly at her. Yet, the 1st of February, 2026, inevitably arrived. That fateful winter evening would permanently shatter her peaceful reality forever. Things kicked off peacefully that night. Takeout arrived featuring a pair of distinct entrees, clearly signaling a planned, intimate meal for two. The prime suspect waited inside upon the food courier's arrival. He eventually confessed to being present during that exact time frame. He arrived considerably early. To any random passerby, it appeared to be a completely mundane, wholesome family supper currently in progress. Just a devoted relative visiting a senior citizen, utterly routine stuff that wouldn't raise a single suspicious eyebrow across the entire residential block. However, behind locked doors, an entirely different, menacing narrative unfolded. Unbearable friction completely filled the air. Insiders claimed the widow was ready to execute those aforementioned restrictive financial adjustments. She potentially even conferred with her counsel earlier that very afternoon. Urgent declarations heavily burdened her mind. She desperately needed to finalize this official legal documentation on paper. These crucial updates tolerated absolutely zero delays. Sometime during the visit, she dialed her representative, recording an urgent, highly secretive voice message. The precise contents of that audio file remain a mystery. Yet, detectives successfully retrieved the digital recording. They immediately realized its immense evidentiary value. It instantly became a cornerstone piece of evidence in their ongoing homicide investigation. Phoning her attorney while her son-in-law lingered nearby wasn't mere happenstance. It served as a glaring red flag. Completely unbeknownst to the victim herself, time dragged forward before sheer chaos erupted indoors. Our knowledge of this tragedy doesn't stem from any hidden surveillance cameras or nosy witnesses. The ugly truth surfaced through a minuscule gadget. It was an internal implant the matriarch constantly carried within her own torso, entirely forgotten. Her pacemaker. The elderly victim desperately relied upon an internal cardiac implant. This tiny computerized mechanism permanently resided beneath her skin, artificially maintaining a steady, healthy cardiovascular tempo around the clock. This critical survival tool had faded from her daily awareness decades prior. Much like corrective lenses, it just seamlessly blended into her physical existence. It essentially became her. Yet, this tiny piece of machinery secretly functioned as a vigilant, entirely time-stamped digital data logger. It ruthlessly tracked every single pulse, sudden palpitation, and extreme fluctuation in her delicate cardiovascular system. During that tragic 1st of February, 2026, those digital files captured a horrific sequence, completely invisible to the naked human eye. Precisely at 8:42 that evening, her pulse spiked violently. No slow buildup, just an instant terror response typically triggered by sheer agony or absolute panic. 5 minutes later, at 8:47, the internal sensors detected violent, highly erratic bodily thrashing. These chaotic vibrations mirrored a brutal, non-consensual physical struggle. Fast forward to 8:52, and physicians noted a massive, catastrophic heart failure unfolding. Her failing organ faced imminent destruction. Ultimately, at 3 minutes past 9, the digital transmission abruptly flatlined forever. 21 agonizing minutes elapsed between the initial medical panic and absolute, deafening dead air. Those 21 terrifying moments trapped the victim in utter isolation, battling an unimaginable horrific nightmare entirely alone within her own walls. The true nightmare tormenting detectives wasn't merely the extreme violence contained in that narrow window. The ultimate, chilling mystery was the grim aftermath. Detectives rolled up to Nancy Guthrie's property, instantly struck by a deeply unsettling presence that felt entirely out of place. This absolute dead quiet was entirely devoid of that tranquil hush wrapping around a safe family sleeping softly through the night. Instead, an oppressive void echoed through the halls, carrying the heavy weight of a space freshly stripped of life. Every entryway remained perfectly intact, lacking shattered glass or splintered wood, meaning forced entry was absolutely out of the question. The intruder simply strolled right through the front threshold without smashing a thing, pointing directly to a terrifying conclusion. Our mysterious visitor targeting Nancy Guthrie that evening shared a familiar bond with her, possessing enough confidence to be welcomed inside. Perhaps they even carried their own set of house keys, especially since nearby residents reported zero strange noises, zero screaming, zero breaking furniture, and absolutely zero violent echoes pierced the drywall, while her tiny protective pup normally barked aggressively at unfamiliar faces. Yet, the animal stayed remarkably docile throughout the ordeal. According to close friends, her loyal pet recognized the visitor, a seemingly minor clue that carries monumental weight within this massive puzzle. It proves this companion felt entirely comfortable around the guest-sharing space with Nancy Guthrie, feeling zero instinct to sound the alarm. Law enforcement methodically swept the property, cataloging every observation across each living area. Someone left the main vehicle bay resting at a highly deliberate elevation, hovering halfway between shut and raised. This exact placement perfectly obscured anyone looking from a specific vantage point. Pedestrians passing by lost all visibility into the carport area, proving this setup was a calculated maneuver rather than mere coincidence. The perpetrator carefully mapped out blind spots, actively manipulating visual access before dealing with the surveillance equipment. An extensive monitoring network protected Nancy Guthrie, utilizing constantly running lenses designed to save every second of video data. These specific defenses normally provide immense comfort to relatives worrying about a vulnerable senior residing entirely by herself. Yet reviewing the archived files revealed glaring blank spots, completely shattering the continuous chronological record. Surveillance mysteriously powered down during specific isolated segments, creating dark periods that seamlessly matched the precise moments her internal heart monitor registered severe medical trauma. Mechanical failure absolutely cannot explain this phenomenon. An outside user breached the network virtually, utilizing authentic login credentials rather than resorting to brute force tactics or temporary visitor passes. The intruder typed the primary code flawlessly because they held the master key. Operating through local wireless internet access, this individual toggled the lenses into a diagnostic state. This clever bypass smoothly halted all video capture without tripping alerts, setting the stage for subsequent tangible destruction. A specific recording device suffered blunt manipulation and undeniable manual tampering. Yet this occurred well after the digital shutdown, showcasing a brilliant mastermind who completely understood that disabling software protocols absolutely must precede smashing the physical hardware components entirely. Frantic chaos never looks like this, screaming highly premeditated strategy. Detectives lingering inside the residence slowly watched a chilling picture emerge, ruling out any possibility of a spontaneous neighborhood break-in. We aren't dealing with an enraged guest snapping before fleeing, but rather a methodical ghost operating with a highly chilling, step-by-step calculated precision. This suspect memorized every lens location while perfectly recalling the exact wireless network credentials. They possessed deep expertise regarding the alarms, silencing them flawlessly thanks to countless previous visits to the property, a familiar friend ignored by the fiercely loyal hound, leading directly into the deafening quietness surrounding Tomaso Cion. As detectives translated the silent testimony of the crime scene, Tomaso Cion engaged in incredibly disturbing behavior according to the public. Absolutely zero effort emerged from him, completely skipping community search parties and avoiding emotional media appeals where sobbing relatives hoisted her picture. Law enforcement never received a single useful tip from his phone line. His digital footprint featured zero pleas for community assistance, though he quickly secured elite legal representation, shielded by his expensive attorneys. He maintained absolute muteness, which brings up a crucial constitutional point regarding American civil liberties. Securing counsel remains a fundamental privilege, designed specifically to protect citizens through entirely valid legal frameworks. Lawyering up never equates to a confession, yet onlookers could not ignore the stark contrast against Savannah, Nancy Guthrie's highly vocal child. Broadcast networks featured her constantly alongside tireless attendance at local neighborhood gatherings. Trembling while gripping portraits of her parent, she begged strangers for help, shattering emotionally at the mere mention of her mother while coordinating massive manhunts, funding bounties through personal savings and establishing dedicated phone banks. Her sheer desperation demanded that a witness step forward with crucial location details. The rest of her heartbroken siblings mirrored this relentless energy, operating with the raw agony unique to terrified families hunting down their vanished loved ones. They stayed loudly present while Tomaso Cion completely vanished into the shadows. A ghost in plain sight, he completely vanished. He refused to support Savannah. You never saw him clutching Nancy's picture. The guy skipped absolutely every single community search rally. Everyone kept whispering about that chilling disconnect between his icy demeanor and the family falling apart on national television. Complete strangers picked up on it, just like the locals and close buddies did. Viewers glued to their couches felt a dark knot twisting deep inside them. Desperation normally forces you into action when a relative vanishes. You scour the streets. Folks tear the world apart, searching. Since sitting idle drives a normal human completely insane. Yet Tomaso basically froze. Entire months vanished. Hotlines rang off the hook. Volunteer groups combed the woods endlessly, while Savannah begged the press. Her counterpart hid behind an expensive legal team, totally mute. Right up until his shocking microphone debut, that brings our narrative full circle. Let us examine the exact phrase that blew everything wide open. Media personnel absolutely packed the briefing center. Word had leaked regarding Tomaso delivering an official announcement to the world. Such news guaranteed a packed house. Broadcasting crews stacked gear 3 layers thick. Onlookers jammed themselves against the drywall. Crowds gathered outdoors, clutching mobile devices, desperately monitoring broadcasts and constantly reloading digital headlines. The highly anticipated climax had arrived. The suspect finally approached the stand. His physical appearance clashed entirely with those viral online portraits. He appeared surprisingly fragile and overly cautious. The guy fiddled with the audio equipment for absolutely zero reason, staring at his palms momentarily. He eventually raised his gaze. His speech started. The man acknowledged the public's desperate thirst for answers. His legal counsel reportedly demanded his absolute silence, a strict strategy he enthusiastically embraced out of sheer terror and overwhelming mental chaos. Clearing his name became his stated goal, leading directly into that massive confession. I visited her place that fateful evening. Absolute dead silence fell over the crowd, leaving only the buzzing overhead air conditioning audible. The story unfolded further. He admitted driving over to Nancy's residence after dark. A heavy discussion supposedly took place between them. That civil chat rapidly deteriorated into a screaming match. The victim was apparently drafting new binding legal contracts, drastically impacting his future, a move which had fueled massive underlying resentment for several grueling months. Amidst the shouting, the elderly woman supposedly tripped. Denying any physical assault, the suspect claimed blind panic took over his brain entirely. Suddenly, he uttered a phrase that completely derailed the detective work, launching the manhunt down a wildly unexpected and terrifying new path. Another soul occupied the property. More accurately, Tomaso shared the crime scene with an unknown third party. A mystery guest lurked in the shadows. A total stranger stood nearby. Some phantom accomplice had successfully evaded the police radar until now. The speaker absolutely refused to identify this secret associate publicly, promising full compliance with law enforcement. He insisted his defense squad was currently ironing out the gritty specifics behind closed doors. However, the cat was permanently out of the bag. The narrative shifted instantly, expanding far beyond a simple kidnapping involving one lone suspect. Detectives instantly mobilized, shifting their entire focus toward tracking down an elusive ghost hiding deep within the city's underbelly. Following that jaw-dropping public confession, the forensic clues started painting a terrifyingly clear picture. Police momentum skyrocketed past previous limits since authorities finally possessed the ultimate golden ticket, a legally binding voluntary confession. The guy placed himself at the scene. Consequently, every single shred of forensic data linking him to the property transformed into rock-solid proof. All the clues firmly anchored themselves to a suspect who happily admitted his physical involvement on live television. Detectives heavily scrutinized the victim's heart monitor logs anew. Timelines perfectly matched his path: 8:42, 8:47, 8:52, and 9:03. Every single clock pulse corresponded perfectly to the exact time frame the accused voluntarily swore he spent indoors. Next came the damning cellular logs. Right past 9 o'clock at night, Tomaso dispatched a chillingly brief digital note. No excuse, no lengthy paragraphs, and certainly zero pleas for assistance. Just a solitary term handled. It hit the detective squad's whiteboard like a massive boulder plunging into a serene lake. Detectives practically felt frost forming on the precinct walls reading that transcript. Mainly because claiming you completely secured a situation absolutely contradicts the whole narrative of a terrified bystander watching a frail grandmother accidentally collapse. That verb reeks of a hitman confirming a successful assassination contract. It echoes an operator assuring his boss the loose ends are tied up. It screams ruthless efficiency, icy calculation, and absolute finality. Cyber units track the destination digits straight back to a completely untraceable disposable mobile device. We mean those cheap plastic burners bought using crumpled dollar bills. The exact models practically immune to identity verification. Criminals favor them heavily to erase their digital footprints entirely. Unfortunately for lawbreakers, electronic breadcrumbs possess a nasty habit of enduring forever. Network diagnostics proved this secret burner pinged an antenna dangerously close to the victim's subdivision that exact night, firmly planting the mysterious accomplice within striking distance of the brutal crime scene. Digital tracking didn't lie. Garage bays opened just past 9. Cargo went in, and heavy cargo went out. A car slipped off the estate in dead silence, shielded by the midnight gloom while everyone slept soundly. Earlier that evening, the smart alarms registered a wireless link originating from a gadget synced inside those walls. Detectives suspect this exact gadget hijacked the surveillance feeds, intentionally forcing them offline into a diagnostic state. Nancy never owned this smartphone, nor was it ever linked to her local home network. The mysterious owner stood perfectly still in Nancy Guthrie's lounge, actively executing a premeditated scheme. Suddenly, mobile antennas caught a rogue ping fleeing the quiet subdivision, tracking a steady escape straight toward metropolitan limits, plunging straight into the barren wastelands. A brutally unforgiving desert environment that stretches out completely flat and vastly further than anyone ever expects. Daylight brings a punishing, vindictive heat, only to rapidly surrender to freezing temperatures the second dusk finally falls. This brutal chill shocks anyone, assuming arid landscapes stay perpetually hot, especially with absolutely zero illumination out there. Zero pavement, absolutely zero bystanders, just endless dirt and weeds. Alongside the spooky rustling of unseen creatures in the pitch black that you desperately pray is merely a breeze, creating the ultimate sanctuary for fugitives needing to vanish completely. Naturally, it serves as the ultimate dumping ground whenever someone desperately needs to conceal dark secrets permanently out of sight. As detectives traced the wireless pings away from Nancy Guthrie's subdivision and deep into the adjacent wasteland trails, their ultimate target remained a total mystery, though they remained certain a shadowy transport had occurred. They confirmed an automobile aggressively drove this exact route past 9 o'clock on February 1st, clearly proving that the horrific nightmare inside that residence had physically spilled out into the world. Recovery crews scattered across the massive landscape, advancing with the painfully meticulous precision of elite forensic units. Keeping their gazes locked downward, they swept the terrain systematically to ensure absolute perfection, proving the barren wilderness is deceiving. Soon enough, hidden details emerge, fresh rubber tracks stamped deeply into the dusty soil, boasting perfectly crisp ridges that undeniably proved the fierce breeze had not yet managed to erode them away, while leaving behind a highly identifiable and incredibly actionable vehicular tread signature. Investigators photographed everything, pushing forward until spotting unnaturally churned dirt. This specific earthen patch severely contrasted with its surroundings, defying the natural way. Dry terrain gradually compresses itself down. Nature forms a hardened, skin-like surface layer, and once that delicate crust gets ruptured, then hastily patted down, the scarred earth permanently loses its original, totally seamless appearance. Spotting these subtle anomalies requires expert vision, which these professionals possessed right before halting their march. After carefully flagging the precise perimeter and requesting specialized excavation gear, they aggressively breached the earth, almost immediately uncovering a strange, unexpected textile scrap, revealing a pitch-black, incredibly dense protective quilt typically utilized by couriers for hauling bulky furniture or shielding delicate valuables from accidental transit damage, half swallowed by dirt. It lay violently crumpled as if frantically stomped beneath the surface, prompting the crew to dig deeper until striking gold. A tiny, block-shaped object emerged, totally caked in grit, yet perfectly preserved a cardiac implant shell. Nancy Guthrie's crucial heart monitor frame sat entombed in a remote wasteland pit, countless miles from civilization, hastily concealed by a desperate, panicked gravedigger. Command Center detectives fell dead quiet upon hearing this update, fully aware that medical implants never extract themselves voluntarily. These devices cannot organically eject from human flesh to magically hike into the wilderness. A human hand forcibly extracted it. A malicious perpetrator manually smuggled it deep into nowhere, far beyond urban limits or home comforts, burying it underground like radioactive evidence demanding permanent, immediate erasure. That is precisely the reality. As this vital apparatus was far more than Nancy's personal health regulator, it effectively operated as the sole resilient indoor observer absolutely immune to threatening digital messages, expensive corporate attorneys, or heavily manipulated public press releases. It contained concrete chronological logs and metrics. Crucially, it permanently documented the precise physical trauma Nancy Guthrie's biology endured on February 1st, completely proving the culprit never haphazardly tossed it from a fleeing sedan in a fit of blind panic, avoiding incredibly obvious dumping grounds. The suspect navigated deliberately into the pitch blackness, pinpointing a totally isolated pocket completely disconnected from modern civilization just to execute a beautifully calculated, highly intentional underground burial. Such meticulous behavior completely contradicts the profile of an irrational amateur acting blindly under severe emotional distress. This mirrors a hyper-rational mastermind frantically obsessing over legal fallout, forensic traces, and the damning convictions awaiting them if authorities recovered the truth. Staring down at the miniature excavated shell in that wasteland, seasoned field agents instantly realized this grim conspiracy was infinitely more premeditated than the mainstream media ever reported. Expanding their grid parameters, the tactical crews realized hunting for mere criminal clues was no longer their objective. They were desperately hunting for Nancy. While search parties scoured the desolate wastelands, detectives quietly circled back to the main property. They combed through the house previously, yet fresh clues and a clearer perspective demanded a secondary, highly targeted inspection. Returning to a location often reveals hidden details slipping past the initial raid. The evidence always existed, except this time the authorities possessed the exact right inquiries to unlock everything. A detective suddenly spotted a crucial detail inside the lounge. It was an automated voice assistant, perched quietly on a ledge, awaiting verbal prompts. Nancy owned the gadget. Much like countless seniors relying on its convenient features to navigate modern life, users would simply command the electronic device to dial a friend or check local forecasts. A person might request the room illuminated without leaving their seat. These intelligent machines constantly capture tiny audio fractions whenever triggered into immediate action. The hardware technically avoids documenting absolutely every single waking moment. However, detecting their specific activation phrase, or even a remarkably similar noise, forces the smart system to permanently save brief, highly revealing audio recordings. All those fragments remain archived. Detectives legally demanded those digital memories, secured their studio headsets, and paid extremely close attention. The majority of the playback proved entirely mundane. It contained meteorological questions, telephone requests, basic domestic clatter, and the peaceful background noise of everyday human existence. Suddenly, a specific file from the evening of February 1st emerged. The chilling recording lasted merely seconds. Authorities played the segment once, completely stunned, then immediately replayed it. The tape captured a tiny, terrified, hauntingly authentic whisper begging a single phrase, "Please." That plea was immediately followed by a massive and violent, sickening thud, a brutal noise echoing the exact impact of someone being shoved, a human frame violently crashing downward, leaving absolute quiet after that solitary, desperate word. This heartbreaking file held the absolute final vocalization Nancy Guthrie ever produced. She never shouted an identity, formed complete thoughts, or screamed loud enough for nearby neighbors to launch a desperate rescue mission. It remained merely a single, tragic plea whispered by an 84-year-old victim standing inside her personal sanctuary, speaking to a ruthless attacker who completely ignored her frantic cries for mercy. Please. Detectives lingered on that deeply disturbing audio file for ages, grounding their focus amidst overwhelming medical readouts, complex telecommunication pings, endless security alarm histories, unearthed plastic housings, and distant tire tread marks left among the sandy, desolate desert dunes. Treating this gruesome mystery like a straightforward brain teaser or a standard assignment felt incredibly tempting, treating the situation as basic data points awaiting alignment. Yet that single recording shattered the illusion, reminding everyone a human lost everything. She was the sweet Nancy Guthrie, a mother constantly phoning her offspring simply to cherish their conversations. She was the matriarch mailing handwritten greetings for birthdays, a devout congregant tending local church flower beds with an unbreakable daily schedule, reduced to breathing the only frantic syllable she could manage: have mercy. The seasoned professionals facing Tomaso Cion inside that bleak interrogation room possessed extensive experience handling ruthless criminal suspects. These officers routinely interviewed deceptive individuals hiding dark secrets. Years of practice taught them exactly how to decode tiny twitches, analyzing delayed verbal responses, and studying the shifting gaze of a liar fabricating an alibi instead of recalling genuine memories. Experience ingrained incredible discipline within the unit, mastering the art of slowly dealing evidentiary cards onto the desk while analyzing the psychological collapse of their prime suspect sitting nearby. Questioning began gently. Detectives requested Tomaso recount that fateful night from scratch. They questioned his precise arrival time, specific conversational topics, and the total duration of his visit with the victim. The suspect delivered a highly rehearsed narrative. He sounded incredibly cautious, evidently memorizing his fake sequence perfectly, remaining perfectly motionless. The man maintained an incredibly flat tone. Suddenly, cops slapped the medical implant statistics right onto the desk without any theatrical, dramatic flair. Nobody shouted aggressively or launched into a righteous monologue. The team simply dropped the file, allowing Tomaso to absorb the facts. Detailed timestamps highlighted massive heart failure at 8:52 and total electronic silence by 9:03. Tomaso stared blankly for ages. Next, authorities produced the suspicious digital correspondence. Soon after, they revealed cellular tracking charts mapping his vehicle's exact trajectory, heading deep into the unforgiving desert environment. They showcased coordinates of dug-up earth, alongside snapshots depicting the plastic medical shell resting within a dusty grave. The suspect's hands started trembling uncontrollably. Visible panic finally washed across his shifting eyes. His meticulously crafted alibi quickly began unraveling at the seams. It disintegrated exactly like a fragile sheet of parchment, dissolving entirely once subjected to a heavy, unexpected torrential downpour of rain. The illusion maintained form briefly before completely collapsing. The man begged for a quick timeout, eventually returning to the room with an entirely different, defeated demeanor. The suspect confessed that murdering Nancy was never his intention. He repeated this defense frantically, slouching toward the officers, desperately craving their belief regarding his lack of homicidal intent. Tempers simply flared out of control, he openly claimed. The victim apparently grew extremely angry. Tomaso insisted her unyielding stubbornness caught him completely off guard. Her absolute commitment to finalizing estate modifications allegedly threw fuel on their fiery dispute. He swore the elderly woman simply tripped, claiming the fatal accident occurred in a sudden flash. Upright a second prior, she abruptly crumpled against the tiles. The man alleged sheer panic paralyzed his muscles, preventing him from dialing emergency medical services. Tomaso admitted standing motionless for an eternity, merely staring downward at the frail widow dying upon the floorboards of her very own personal sanctuary. Rather than dialing 911 to save her life, this guy reached out to a shadowy fixer instead, refusing to drop an actual name. He merely branded this mystery figure, his trusted partner, the ultimate cleaner summoned whenever disasters struck. Once this mysterious partner showed up, Tomaso claimed that the newcomer completely grabbed the reins. This very accomplice ultimately made the brutal choice to completely bypass emergency medical services. That partner allegedly surveyed the grim scene, treating the ordeal like a crisis, requiring swift mitigation rather than a dying human needing urgent rescue. This fixer allegedly broke down the harsh reality of arriving cops, pointing out the brutal interrogations and glaring loopholes Tomaso could never successfully justify. Ripping out her heart device was the accomplice's dark brainstorm. Extract it and erase the data. Erasing that internal tracker wiped away the exact timeline, making any criminal allegations incredibly tough to verify, hence the extraction. Poor Nancy might have still been drawing breath, clinging to life, while her own daughter's husband stood around like a paralyzed coward, only to endure a gruesome surgery by monsters valuing their own freedom far more than her survival. Next, they transported her body. Tomaso claimed a thick quilt was conveniently waiting nearby, adding that he actively blocked out the subsequent horrors. He insisted he retreated to another room entirely, purposely hiding away while the hired cleaner orchestrated the dirty work. Closing his eyes supposedly made the nightmare feel fake to him, right as a phantom car silently slipped away from the estate under the cover of midnight. Out there in the vast wasteland beneath a freezing, starless canopy, they dumped Nancy in an undiscovered grave, leaving detectives to marvel at the sheer mountain of fresh clues finally piled up on their desks. Yet a massive hurdle remained. Tomaso was merely half the deadly equation, meaning his shadowy accomplice remained freely roaming the streets. Hunting down this phantom partner quickly hijacked the entire case focus, since Tomaso dropped just enough breadcrumbs for detectives to start unraveling the mystery. As authorities yanked that thread, the sinister cover-up rapidly unraveled. Detectives successfully linked that burner mobile, which caught the ominous handled message, right back to a specific individual using signal tower records. They lacked a neat paper trail. Instead, they relied on grueling digital forensics, tracking the device's historical movements and bouncing those coordinates against established geographic markers. Law enforcement slowly pieced together a crystal-clear profile of the mysterious user. Detectives caught another wireless gadget pinging out in the wastelands that fateful evening. Totally distinct from the network tethered to Nancy's home alarms, this extra tracker flashed momentarily before dying completely right near those suspicious fresh tread marks. Twin gadgets equaled twin suspects. Surveillance cameras near Nancy's block caught a guy buying a burner with paper money 48 hours prior to February 1st, offering a blurry yet helpful visual. A detective instantly clocked the suspect's distinctive gait, physique, and coat, recognizing him from previous files heavily linked to Tomaso. Signal intelligence from the accomplice's burner highlighted a midnight route that eventually split completely away from Tomaso's established trajectory. This heartbreaking story reminds us that the true value of a person is not found in money, property, or control, but in love, kindness, and the quiet ways they hold a family together. Nancy was not just a name in a case. She was the steady heart of her home, a woman who showed love through warm meals, thoughtful words, and constant care for the people around her. When someone like that is taken away, the loss is not only personal, it shakes an entire world. The deepest lesson here is that our choices in moments of pressure reveal who we really are. Anger, greed, and selfishness can destroy in minutes what love spent a lifetime building. Truth may be delayed, but it still matters. Justice may move slowly, but every voice, every memory, and every act of courage can help bring light into darkness. This story also teaches us not to stay silent. A small detail, it's a strange moment, or a simple decision to speak up can mean everything to a grieving family. In the end, compassion is never small, honesty is never weak, and love, even in the middle of pain, remains the strongest force we can leave behind.